I think life is just a big design system. So designing your life in a way that makes it as easy as possible to like live the life you want to live. And I'm very happy.
Are you running a marathon? Oh, I could never run a marathon.
Sure about that? A marathon is like 42 kilometers, 26 miles. I don't understand those people.
That used to be me. But not anymore. Welcome to the Marathon Podcast. My name is Christian Warwick. Warwick Runs on Instagram, YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. And also, really want to tell you guys that I appreciate all the feedback and the streams on the last episode. I always feel a bit of an imposter syndrome when I'm posting something where it's just me talking, sharing my own thoughts. And I'm really happy that you guys are actually enjoying this and feel like you're getting something out of it. So thank you for that. If you are new to the podcast, welcome to the Marathon Podcast. I'm so happy to have this podcast. It gives me a lot of joy getting to talk to a lot of people and connecting with a lot of people. So please keep reaching out to me on social media or commenting if you enjoy what you're listening to or if you just want to connect. A couple of things that I just want to ask you guys that I haven't really asked about lately is please head over to the app that you're listening to. Give this podcast a review on Spotify or Apple if that's where you're listening. Maybe even leave a comment on Apple Podcast. That I would really appreciate that. And please also follow the Marathon Podcast on Instagram and YouTube. Those are things that will really help me to build this podcast into something that is bigger than it is today. And that's something that I'm very interested in doing. I also want to remind you that the marathon hat is for sale, a black hat or a white hat. And you can get that on themarathonpodcast.com. And all the profit from the first 300 hats will go directly back to the Marathon Podcast sponsorship, which is sponsoring non-professional athletes. In today's episode, we're having Cody Taggart on, and I am just amazed by his story. He has such a journey from trying to take his own life at 21 to now having what he calls a great life and running ultra marathons, having a running community in Nashville. I was kind of just blown away by his whole story. And like I told him after the recording, I feel like we kind of just touched the surface with a lot of these things. And I I still was left like super inspired. I feel like I learned a lot. But I think that you guys just need to follow uh, Cody on his socials to keep learning more, keep getting inspired. Before we dive into that, as usual, I'm going to give you a quick little update on myself. It's only been a couple of days since the last time I was sitting here talking to you guys, so there's not that much to update you on. I just had one run or two runs yesterday. I was trying to double one 10K 6 mile run and then one that was just like 6 kilometers in the evening. So not that much to report on. Today I was supposed to have a harder workout, but I guess the thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about just for a minute is that sometimes you might wake up and you feel super tired. Like yesterday, last night, started feeling very tired before going to bed in a way where you're like, oh, am I starting to get sick? And I'm not sure if I am, but I'm feeling really like exhausted. And so today I probably could have done my run. I could have done my workout, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a day off and hopefully I can come back stronger tomorrow. My experience is that when I'm pushing myself on days like that or like days like these, then I will most likely get sick or push myself a bit too more. This is my body kind of telling me that I need to rest. And like in some ways or sometimes your watch might be able to tell you this or your Aura ring or whatever tool you're using. In this case, my resting heart rate was still low and there was no difference. I was told that my readiness was high, but I just want to remind you that you are the best to listen to your own body. I have found that myself at least that the best times to make these decisions is obviously when you're motivated, like that you know that you're not doing it because you're lazy, but because you think that's a smart decision. So that's where I'm at right now. Not that much more to report on than that. And I think that we should just jump to the conversation with Cody, but wanted to touch on that before. So enjoy this conversation, enjoy your run if that's what you're doing listening. And also Cody was actually in a sports store recording this. And so every now and then there were some background noises. I hope that we got most of the audio to be great. But if you hear something in the background, it's just some of them coming in a bit early before the store opened. Before we dive into this conversation with Cody, I think it's important to emphasize that in this conversation, we are talking about suicide and mental health. If you are struggling, please contact someone, talk to someone, use the helplines. And also, if this is something that you don't really want to listen to, we are talking about some things that can be a bit hard to handle if you are or have been struggling or if you have someone close to you. So just giving you a little bit of a warning, and also know that we are not health professionals at all. This was a chat where Cody was sharing his story. Cody Taggart, welcome to the Marathon Podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm really excited about this too.
Yeah, I'm so amazed by your story, and I feel like we need to kind of get just right to that because if people head over to your Instagram and that introduction of yours, like just within those first two slides on Instagram there, you understand that you have quite the story. Will you say something about, I guess, like how you got to where you are today? We'll get into all the details, but a very open question for you there.
Yeah. So I'm a trainer based here in Nashville, trainer and ultra runner based here in Nashville now. But I wasn't always this version of myself. So 10, 12 years ago, I was 320 pounds. I was abusing drugs and alcohol. I was super unhappy, depressed, and just wasn't taking very good care of myself. And then 2 years before my 21st birthday, or excuse me, 2 weeks before my 21st birthday, my dad had passed away from a heart attack. And that was kind of my rock bottom moment. And that was when I was pretty much done with life at that point. So on my 21st birthday, I attempted to take my own life. Thank God it was not successful. But that was the moment where I really realized that I needed to change my life, or wherever I was going was just not going to be a good place. And taking control of my health seemed to be the place that made the most sense. So over the next year and a half, 2 years, I lost 120 pounds, and I wasn't even running yet. That was through strength training and just nutrition, but I lost 120 pounds. And then I really found a passion in helping other people transform their relationship with their body, relationship with movement, relationship with just their mental health too. So since then, I've been coaching for 12 years now, and it's been really fun. It's taken me all across the world. I started it in Detroit, where I'm from. Then I moved to LA, opened up a gym out there, and now I'm living here in Nashville training.
Yeah. We're going to get back to your running, but I want to quickly just ask you some more questions about like those years around when your dad passed away and when you were 21. And I think that like we see more and more, we read about it in social media that people are struggling. Like I've been pretty open myself about how running has really helped my anxiety. Um, will you say something about like, I guess first, like how did it feel back then? That now I feel like there's so much hope when you're talking about things, but back then it seemed like there was no hope. And if you were to kind of just describe that feeling of hopelessness that you felt back then.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it. So growing up, my family, I had the most loving family. My mom, I have 4 brothers and a sister. I was always surrounded by love, and I was very lucky to have parents that did everything they could to make sure that we were taken care of. But we just didn't have a ton of money growing up, so we moved probably 10, 12 times when I was younger. We stayed we were staying in shady motels at some point. So I was just, for a lot of different reasons, I was just kind of like mad at the world. And then once my dad passed away, that was just my like, I'm done. Like this life isn't for me. I thought 21 was the end of the road for me. And on my 21st birthday, when I attempted to take my own life, it did not obviously. It's not like once I decided to continue my life, it's not like everything was magically fixed, right? I was still dealing with the same issues. I was still dealing with the unhappiness, the depression, the dark cloud that was kind of hovering above me. And it wasn't any one thing that fixed it. It was a lot of different things. How I talk to my clients nowadays, I think wellness is kind of like a design system. So we have like your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, your financial health, your social health, your religious or spirituality. All those things play a role in our well-being. So I really had to do a lot of work in all those areas. For me, physical health was the first thing that I needed to tackle. But in order for me to get into a better place, I had to do work in all of those areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I I totally understand what you mean, and I think that, like you said, and I'm also very happy that your suicide attempt was not not successful. And although like most people might not kind of like relate to being suicidal, I think that a lot of people, like, at least I've heard from people, and I know with myself, it's like, okay, what would happen if I just jumped in front of this train right now?
Hmm.
Not as like an actual like I'm gonna do this, but more like, okay, things are bad and it wouldn't be the worst.
Yeah.
Uh, and uh,
And depression plays a trick on you where it makes you feel like you're the only one going through it in the world,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
obviously, it could
exactly.
not be further from the truth. But yeah, it's this very sinister game that makes you feel like you're the only one going through it. So, oh, you must be the worst human ever, and you're just a piece of crap. So, um,
Mhm.
yeah, it just plays it's a sinister trick that it plays on you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's something that I'm happy that more people are open about this on social media as well,
Hmm.
because you might not get that feeling that you're so alone, although you do feel like you're alone when you're facing those things. But then, like, hearing your story and hearing other people talk about it as well, that there's like kind of this life-changing moment sometimes when you face something that you did, and you definitely just turned your life around, right? So although you said that it wasn't like everything just changed and everything was like different after trying to take your own life, what kind of thoughts did you have after that made you make that change, I guess?
For me, it was um, back to the attempt. It was the only reason that I didn't end up going through with that attempt with when I essentially tried to take my own life was I pictured my mom, right? And I thought about my mom having to, she just lost her husband, right, of 27 years. So the thought of my mom having to deal with losing a son at the same time, that's what broke me, or that's what stopped me from doing that, right? Um, so when I decided to keep going, the first thing for me again was taking care of my physical health, and I needed to find community. I think community was one of the bigger parts. So I found that in the gym. At that point, I played sports growing up. So being on the football team, baseball team, basketball teams were always a big part of my life. So once I was able to find some sense of community, I think that's when the ball really started rolling there. And I started just to realize that I wasn't alone.
Yeah. Wow. And so when you started the like being a part of this community, but I guess also when you changed your life in terms of fitness and training and nutrition, the things that you mentioned, how quickly did you notice, I guess, like in your day to day life, that okay, now I'm on the right path?
Mhm. I mean, do we ever know that? I'm like,
Probably not. Probably not.
um, I think that's a really good question. I guess I really haven't thought about that one. I think once I realized that I was happy with what I was doing, I was impacting other people's lives in a positive way, and I was able to, I don't know, live the life that I wanted to live. I was able to pay my bills. I was able to like design my life in a way that gave me a little bit of freedom. And again, I was doing good work, and other people were getting something out of it. So I think that's when I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Um, because for personal training for me kind of came as a side gig while I thought I was going to try to figure my life out. Um, I was going to school. I was going to Albion College in Michigan, and then I couldn't afford it anymore. So I went back home to a community college, and then I was like, I was helping my friends lose weight and stuff. So I was like, let me just pick up personal training as a side gig while I figure my stuff out. And I just quickly fell in love with it, helping other people like improve their relationship with their body, mind, movement. And I just decided to go all in on it. Yeah, it's good one there. Walking behind me here, but you're good.
You're good.
Um, and then once I realized that other people were getting stuff out of it too, I was like, okay, this is something that I want to go all in on. So I started training in Detroit. I moved to LA where I eventually opened up my own gym, and then I ended up training celebrities and influencers and a whole bunch of other stuff. And yeah, it's just been a really positive experience.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're gonna get back to your coaching as well. But what happened with this transformation is like obviously you got more fit. I know that you ran your first half marathon and then your first marathon, and you got into running. Uh, what made you? Because like you said, you were a pretty heavy person, not super fit, and things really needed to change for your body to even be able to handle those distances. So, what made you take that leap in or make that decision to start running? Because like you said, you did a lot of gym training before that.
Yeah. My first half marathon, I think it was 2020. I wanted to do something that the 320-pound version of me couldn't do. So I was just like, let me do one half marathon and then we'll call it good from there. And then from there, it's the classic runner story where one half marathon turned into a marathon turned into like 4 or 5 marathons. And then I literally just Googled what's harder than a marathon. I found out what ultra marathons are. Found out the most common distances are 50K, 50 miler, 100K, 100 milers. And I was like, well, if we're going to do it, let's just do the entire thing. Right. So I went
Hmm.
straight to the 100 miler from the marathon. I did the Run Rabbit Run 100 miler in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Cutoff time was 36 hours and I finished in 35 hours and 55 minutes. So I did literally everything wrong that I possibly could during that race. I got lost, wrong gear, did not prepare well, but I was hooked, especially on the community aspect of it and the adventure aspect of the race. And then from there, it was just gradually trying. Like I've been doing it. I've been doing ultras now for 5 years, so it's just been gradually getting a little bit better of it, getting stronger, increasing my mileage, just trying to train in a smart way.
Hmm. And I feel like a lot of people who are, who find running and start running marathons, they might stop for a while and do marathons for a while, and then you might kind of enter that ultra marathon, those longer distances
Hmm.
eventually. And it could be that I'm wrong, but my impression is that you kind of quickly got to the point where it's like you kept pushing that limit to be like, okay, what's harder? What's harder?
Yeah,
What's harder?
I think and there's a big I don't know, there's a common factor between people who have like addictive personalities. Because again, back in when I was super unhealthy, 320 pounds, I was drugs, alcohol, 5, 6 days a week. And I think I just traded one addiction for the other. So yeah, the adventure aspect of it was the coolest part of it for me. But yeah, I think I definitely got hooked on it pretty quickly.
Yeah. And how did your body react? Because I think that to a lot of listeners, what they would probably like to know is like, okay, I want to change my life. I want to start running more. But my knees or my hips or my calves, whatever,
Yeah.
they are not really joining me on this
Yeah.
transformation.
I
It
mean,
sounds
that's a
like you,
longer discussion too. Depends on the person too. Obviously, strength training, like training in a smart way and trying not to do too much too fast. 'Cause obviously, it's running is a lot of stress on the body. There's just no way around that. So if you're uh, going straight from the couch trying to start to train for like a 50K, 50 mile or something like that, it's going to take some time. Your muscles need time to adapt to the stress of running, your joints, your ligaments, and your mind too. So we can get into the specifics of like how to strength train as a runner and all that stuff. But I think patience is the big thing here because a lot of the quote unquote elite runners or the ultra marathoners that have been doing it for a while, they've just been doing it for years and years and years and years, and their body have kind of adapted to that stimulus, to that stress. So it's hard. It can be done like to do it in a year or two, but it's hard. It's just a lot of
yeah.
stress on the body, and the body needs a little bit of time to adapt to it.
But how was it then for you? Because I can totally relate to that addictive personality that you're talking about. Like, I definitely have the same. And then after Boston last year, I made a documentary about like how running kind of just changed my life in terms of my anxiety. So as long as I'm able to run, I'm doing well.
Yeah.
And my fiance's mom, she was like, "Well, what will you do when you don't have running? Like if you get injured or something happens?" And so I would just assume that at the time where you were making these changes and you found whether it was strength training or maybe more specifically running, it I feel like you would be more vulnerable in terms of getting injured because you replaced that other addiction with this addiction.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
was that smooth sailing for you? Like, were you able to avoid injuries, or
No,
what?
God, no.
Okay, so what happens? So what happened when you got injured?
It was it's exactly what you're saying. It was like the knees, the hips, and everything. After my first 100 miler, I was out of commission for probably a month. My knees, my feet were just not used to that kind of pounding. It was just a purely grit and mental thing that allowed me to finish that first one. But yeah, and after that, that's when I realized like, okay, I need to like train smarter in order to do this. So it was strength training at least 2 or 3 times a week. Um, Being a little bit smarter with my runs, taking my easy runs actually easy. And there's obviously a lot of strategy that we can talk about, but it was just training smarter, like
Yeah.
being patient, training smarter, and not trying to do too much too fast.
Mhm.
And I do think a big part of it was my relationship with running too. Growing up in a family of there were I have 4 brothers and a sister, and again, I had the most loving parents in the world, but it was hard for everybody to get attention all the time, right? So I grew up in a household where athletic achievement or doing something extraordinary would get you praise or attention or love. So that I grew up equating like athletic achievement with attention. And because I was still dealing with all the inner turmoil that we talked about before, I thought that if I did this 100-mile race, if I did these really cool races, that people would have to start to love me and respect me and see me. Turned out that's not true. That's not that's not how any of this works. So I was running for the wrong reasons. And I think over the last 3, 4, or 5 years, probably like 3, 4 years, my relationship with running has really changed. And I think that's a big part of why I've become such a like a better runner, I guess. I don't run for like the self-serving reasons anymore. It's more for connection. And I say that's for connection with myself because I feel like I understand myself a lot more anytime I take on one of these challenges, connection with community something that James Osborne, one of the co-founders of the exchange here, says all the time. It's running is a team sport, and I truly believe that. The community here is incredible, and the people that I've met through running is incredible. And then connection with the environment too, just getting
Yeah.
outdoors, going to the mountains, and 'cause I know with myself, whenever I get in one of my funks, I have a tendency to self isolate and just stay indoors and think I'm the worst person ever. So, um, running is another part of running for me is just forcing myself to get outdoors and, yeah, just not lock myself inside.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm kind of just blown away by everything that you're talking about, and I can only imagine, like you said, your mom and your family, and for them to also like, because you're going through something, but at the same time they're going through something, like seeing you, being worried about you. But I'm curious, I don't know if you talked to your mom about this, but it must be such a relief for her now to see the life that you've built. You seem pretty resilient. Like, how do you think it is for her to see you where you are today? Because regardless of, like you said, the whatever performance you do, I'm sure like she's the most proud of the person you've become.
Yeah. She hates that I do these races still.
Yeah.
She she she's like, "Anytime you wanna stop doing these 100-mile or 300-mile races, like, you're good." But she is proud. I think she's proud. She sees, the impact that I've, luckily been able to have on other people. She sees how much I care about this thing, my strive to just be better and create a life for myself. So she's proud of that and, like, those aspects of it, but she still hates that I do these dumb races for sure. She's very vocal about that too.
Oh, I love that. That's the same with my grandma. She's like, whenever I say that I've signed up for another marathon, it's like, oh, are you doing another one of those? Because she's always worried. But
She's accepted it. She realized that it's a losing battle, and I'm gonna do it anyway. She's just like,
mhm.
"Okay."
Yeah.
So even when I did the my last race was the last man standing, and she just didn't understand that I was just gonna run around a 4-mile loop until I couldn't
Hmm.
run anymore, and she was just put her head down. She was like, "I just have nothing to say about this."
Yeah. You mentioned last man standing, and there are so many things that we can list of the things that you've done. But like, at least to me, I think the craziest one is the speed project that you did by yourself, solo, right? More than 300 miles, more than 70 hours of run. Like, can you? I guess we have to start with just the decision to do that in the first place, because that seems a bit unreal to me.
Mhm. I've taken part in the speed project twice now. I was the first year I did it, I was part of the crew with, my friends Dom, who runs a really cool run club out in LA called Sunday Run Day, and it was just such a cool experience. The people out there, it's just so cool, and me being me the entire time I was out there, I was just like, "I wonder if I could do this by myself," and I told myself if I ever got the opportunity to do it, if they offered me the chance to do it, then I would say yes and figure out the rest later. And then the very next year, I applied to do it solo. I got the invite, and I was like, "All right, say yes and figure out the rest later." And I think a lot of it was ignorance too. Ignorance is bliss. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. The furthest I had ran was 100 miles, so obviously that jump from 100 to 300 is something. But yeah, I think something my therapist told me years ago was it's less about having it all figured out and more about trusting yourself enough to figure it out along the way. And that was really the attitude that I took with it. I didn't know how we were going to get it done. I didn't know who was going to be my crew. I didn't know any of the logistics. I was just like, say yes, and then we'll figure it out. And then somehow we did.
Wow. And can you take us through the execution of that? How does that work? Like, how much do you stop? How much do you rest? It's kind of like, it's like you said, you are pushing your body and you're pushing yourself in ways that you might not be aware of that you're even able to do. But I you got through it, so you have the recipe, I guess.
Yeah. The so for those who aren't familiar, the Speed Project is an unsanctioned race from LA to Vegas. The OG route is 340 miles, but you can create your own route too. It was started originally as a 6-person relay race, but just the nature of the human spirit, people wanted to start taking it on solo, so they introduced that division as well. Um, but yeah, so did solo. My route was 311 miles. And because it's an unsanctioned kind of like do it yourself race, the beauty of it is you can kind of get what you want out of it. Right. So if you're somebody who is trying to compete for the win, like you can do that. If you're somebody who's just out there for the vibes with your crew, you can do that too. I was somewhere in the middle. I guess I knew I wasn't really going to compete for the win. I think there were 48 solo runners that year, and I think I finished in like 17th or something like that. But I knew I wanted to push myself too. The general outline of it, and again, everybody's different, and, the general outline of it for me was to run 50 to 75 miles a day, sleep about 3 or 4 hours at night, and then just kinda rinse and repeat until we got there, and we stuck to that plan for the most part. I went to bed at, like, 10 PM or midnight each night, woke up around 4 AM to start moving. The mornings were the hardest part. Your body is just so stiff, during an event like that, so I always
Hmm.
had to walk a mile or 2 in the morning, but yeah, that was the general structure. I had an RV. I had 6 crew members, some of my really good friends who I'm incredibly grateful for that I would not have been able to do that without them. But we had an RV and a Jeep for some of the off-road sections. So the RV would go like 8 to 10 miles ahead or something like that, and that's where everybody would rest, that's where all the food was, and I would run that 8 miles or whatever, the Jeep would stay with me just in case I needed anything or somebody wanted to pace me, and then once I got to the RV, I would kinda refuel, change, do whatever I needed to do, and just kinda rinse and repeat till we got there.
Wow. But what motivates you when you are, like you said, mornings are difficult. I'm sure there are moments throughout this race where you just would love to stop and just do anything but running. So what is it that goes through your head? What motivates you?
It depends on the race too. There are a few common threads that I stick with whenever I'm doing any of these races. And part of this race too was because I made such a big commitment. Like I flew all these people out from across the world to like from across the country to crew me and stuff. I'm like, well, I can't quit this race. I'm like, they're doing this with me. I can't quit this if they're here with me. But a big one for me is just like, what do you want your story to be? Like, uh, if I quit now, how am I going to feel in a couple of days versus if I keep going? Because the pain that I'm feeling there is temporary, but if I quit, and when I still had more to give, that guilt, that shame is going to hang around a lot longer. Um, yeah, it really depends on the race. Trying to think like some of the ones. A big one with that one was the community and the speed project, because what I found doing solo was like, yes, we're all out there on running our own race, and you see all the crews like out there too, all the other runners, all the other crews. Yes, we're all out there running the own race, but everyone was so supportive and so helpful with each other that everyone was giving each other their crew's food, their drinks, their gear, their water, whatever. It was a really beautiful thing because we're all doing our own thing, but we're kind of relying on each other, and in a way that kind of felt how life is supposed to be in a way. Like, yeah, we're kind of doing our own thing, but we kind of need each other to get to where we want to be. And because we had that support system, because it was just such a really cool community feel, I don't know, I never felt like I was never like I wasn't gonna finish the race. It was hard, obviously, and there were moments where I was like, "To hell with this. I'm like, I don't wanna be doing this, but I'm not gonna quit." So, yeah, I think the biggest part, honestly, the biggest part of it was the community aspect of it for me. The people kept me going more than anything.
Yeah. And when we're talking about this, you did mention that for a very long time, and maybe like for the last 4 to 5 years, you realized that you don't necessarily need to do these races to make people proud of you or to get that attention, whatever. And I think that a lot of us we can relate to the fact that when you're asking yourself, like, and you try to be honest with yourself, whether it's the marathon or the 10K or the 5K, when you're thinking about that PR, it's easy to kind of have this thought, what will this person think, or what will other people think? What will it look like on Strava, on Instagram, those kind of things. And uh, you talked about the community aspect of this when running that speed project or the other races that you've done. But how much of that motivation comes from like proving yourself to others or making other people, I guess, like getting reactions from other people?
Yeah. No, not as much anymore. When I first started, I was running for sure. That was, and again, I was just running for all the wrong reasons. I wanted the attention. I wanted people to see me, to respect me, to think, oh, he's cool, he can do whatever. Now I can confidently say I run for the joy of it. For like when we're doing track workouts here, being able to like high five people and running and support them. It's less about the acclaim for it now, and just more about connecting with the people in my life, connecting with myself. Because I do feel like every time I take on one of these events, I learn a little bit more about myself. Um, I think there's something too, just for lack of a better term, putting yourself in the arena, right? Is to choose vulnerability over safety. Because I think when you choose vulnerability over safety, you end up coming out a little bit tougher, a little bit more empathetic toward yourself and to other people, and maybe a little wiser too. And that's why I think running has just made me a better person in general. I have a better relationship with myself, better relationship with the community, and better relationship with nature too. So yeah, it used to be for all the wrong reasons, but now I think my relationship with running has done a complete 180.
And what made that change? I guess because at least that's something that I would love to learn of, like, oh, I'm just gonna enjoy this, but still, I guess like it's okay to appreciate progress, but still do it for yourself and not for everyone else.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is like sometimes you just have to do some things that don't work to figure out what does. And I've spent so long running for the wrong reasons. I'm like, okay, let's maybe try something else. And going back to what you said earlier about tying your identity up into one thing, I think I was doing that for a long time too with ultra running, where I was listening to this really interesting podcast. It was a ritual podcast. I can't remember who he had as a guest, but he talked about like your self identity being like a house, right? So if one room is like you're a runner, one room is you're a father or husband or whatever. If you just can't get tied up in one room, because if that room gets trashed, or if then you can still go to you can still go
Hmm.
to a different room, right? But if your entire house is like, oh, I'm a runner, what happens when that house burns down or whatever, right? So I think for me, realizing like, yes, running is a really important thing in my life, but it's not the only thing in my life.
Yeah.
I'm a friend, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm a trainer, I'm all these things. So taking a little bit of the pressure off, I think, was a big thing. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it's running, it's fun. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to
Hmm.
like it's a very important piece of my life, and I don't ever want it to go away. But it's running. It's not that
Yeah.
serious. It's like when somebody looks at my Strava, like it doesn't matter. Who cares what they think, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so for me, I think it was just taking some of the pressure off, realizing that I'm much more than whatever pace or whatever distance my Strava says, realizing that life is more about like the people that I have in it, like the moments that I have, the people that I have in my life, and focusing more on that. That was one of the more, I guess, one of the biggest changes that I had to make.
Yeah. Wow. I want to ask you, just based on what you said about like, because now obviously you have a very healthy lifestyle. It's clear that your life consists mostly about like of running and the community and being a coach. Uh, what is your relationship to alcohol and like drugs today compared to what it was like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. So I maybe drink like I drink socially. Like I'll have a drink or two at dinner every couple of weeks with friends or something like that. Um, yeah, that I mean, honestly, that's about it. I don't really do drugs anymore. When I was living in California, I was probably, partaking in too much marijuana living out there. But yeah, now not so much. I'll socially have a drink or two every now and then with friends, but it's a very like now, see, running is a trap, right? Because now I built this community here in Nashville. I'm a part of this really special community here in Nashville where all my friends are runners now, and we all get to go run at like 6 a.m. and everything. So, in order for me to see my friends, I have to get up at 5 or 6 a.m. and go run. In order for me to do that, I can't do anything the night before. I have to go to bed at 9 p.m. So, I don't have time or the energy to do any of that anymore. So I think, and then going back to what we were saying, life, I think life is just a big design system. So designing your life in a way that makes it as easy as possible to like live the life you want to live. And I'm very happy about this, but I built a community, that, that I really love. I feel like I'm in a good place with my work. I feel like I'm in a good place with my physical health, my mental, emotional health. Obviously we all have our days, but I feel like I've just designed my life in a way where I'm more at peace than I used to be.
Mhm. I love to hear that, and I think it's great that you've been able to find that balance. And I'm also curious because when I asked you what your motivation is, it's like you're running for the joy of it. But I also know that a lot of the races that you've done and a lot of the things that you're doing, and we're definitely going to get back to that community aspect that you've touched on several times. But I know that you've also been doing some fundraising for mental health and like or supporting mental health and putting that on the agenda. Uh, how much does that like? I guess like how much of your motivation to do the races and to finish and to do those things are like affected by the fact that you are running for something that's bigger than yourself?
Definitely a big part of it. And again, I think whenever you're doing like an ultra, any race, it doesn't even have to be an ultra, but so I was just talking to one of my friends about this yesterday. They were asking me if training or if running these 100-mile races, 300-mile races is more physical or mental, and it's both. Obviously, like you have to be physically trained, but obviously you need to be mentally resilient. But the way I described it was it kind of flip flops. There are going to be points where your mental is not there, and then you need to rely on your physical. There are going to be points when your physical is not there, so you need to rely on the mental. And then when you're relying on the mental aspect of it, that's when you got to kind of pull out your bag of tricks, like whatever mantras that you're saying to yourself. So for me, the most important one that I always say to myself is don't quit at your lowest moment. So, yeah, and when you're able to name like the lowest moment, you're like, oh, this is it. This is the time. This is the like the make or break point. And then remind yourself just to make it another 10 or 15 minutes and make the decision there. That's one of them. What do you want your story to be? Like I said earlier. And then also what you were just talking about, like running for something bigger than myself. Like when I ran my first 100-mile race, it was for my nephew Landon, who passed away from in a freak car accident. We were raising money for his scholarship. We've raised like I think $30,000 for various mental health uh companies the last couple of years too. So it helps. Basically, it's when
Hmm.
you're in those little moments when you got to pull out your bag of tricks. For like, okay, how am I going to get through this moment right here? It helps to be able to pull, I guess, yeah, pull that card and remind yourself like why you're out here, why you're doing this thing.
But do you ever stop for a second and like look back at your life, where you were, where you are today, and everything that you've done, like like you said, for other people as well, because regardless, like, you are affecting some people directly by, or foundations, whatever it is, or that scholarship when you're raising money for that, but also indirectly just by, I'm sure, through this podcast or through social media, you're reaching so many people who are probably feeling inspired. Maybe they are where you were 12 years ago. Maybe they have gotten through it. Like, there are so many good things that you've contributed with. Do you ever stop and appreciate that?
I've been forced to a little bit more recently because, again, the community here is awesome. Like, we did this event with the Exchange VPN called Shortest Day of the Year, Longest Journey of Your Life, where I ran 100 miles on, like, a little park here in Nashville, and the community that came out for that and all the kind words that people said to me, and I met this, kid named Burke. I hope he listens to this. He's a teen. He had the most infectious energy, and he was, like, just telling everybody, "Great job, you got this, you're killing this," and he was my favorite person out in the course all day, and then his dad sent me this really kind message saying, like, how cool it was that we got to run together, and him seeing me do this thing, like, meant a lot to him, and even talking to, like, some of the other community members here, they've said some really nice things, so I try, I guess, not to I guess maybe not try. Guess I just don't think about it that often, but I'm lucky to have people in my life that sometimes force me to slow down a little bit and be like, "Hey, like, you are doing this cool thing here. Like, remember you're doing this. Don't be so, like, hard on yourself. Don't get so caught up in it." So, yeah, I guess maybe I don't as often as I should, but lucky to have people in my life that kind of force me to every now and then.
Mhm. I'm glad, because it's incredible what you're doing, and I think that one thing is turning your life around the way you have, but also being able to like let other people benefit from that, I think is amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like my life.
Yeah.
It's a cool life. Yeah.
Yeah. I love to hear you say that, especially with like the things you told us about right now. So uh yeah, thank you for sharing that. And there have been several times throughout our conversation now that both of us will be like, oh, I want to get back to this.
Mhm.
One of the things that I would love to touch more on is, you are a coach, you are doing this ultra races yourself, and there are some coaches who would say you should not do ultras, like that will mess you up. Obviously you're probably not one of them, but uh, when you are approaching coaching and balancing that limit, I guess, for the people you are coaching, or for anyone listening to this and who need advice, how are you building up that stamina or that tolerance to running as much as you do?
Yeah, I have to separate it sometimes because, like, when I'm 'cause me personally, I'll tell anybody they can do anything, right? Like, if you hang out with me long enough or you train with me, I'm gonna convince you that you can do whatever you want. Then I also have to, like, the coach mode in me has to make sure I'm going about it in a smart, like, tangible way. So, big picture is talking about with my clients, like, what do they want out of life to, like, yes, whatever we're training for, but more so, like, what are you looking to get out of life, right? And how does whatever goal that we're talking about play into that, right? So once we kind of establish what you want out of life, kind of what you're going for, and then it's just kind of working backwards from there. There are times when I have to kind of like reel people in a little bit. I'm like, okay, like, yes, we can 100% do this at some point, but we need to take a little bit slower for somebody who I don't know, who's maybe just did their first 5K or 10K or something like that. And I've had this happened a couple of weeks ago. They said they wanted to do their first 100 miler. I'm like, sick. Yes, let's do that. I love that so much. Also, let's slow down a little
Yeah.
bit at the same time. But then there are also times when people are kind of like downplaying their capabilities. They say, "Oh, like, I don't think I can run a marathon. Oh, I don't think I can do a half marathon or an ultra." And obviously I'm not going to force it. If they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But if it's something that they're showing interest in, and if maybe it's some sort of limiting belief, that's my job to remind them, like, no, you can do this. It's 100% possible. And then I think it's through our workouts, through our runs, it's showing them the little moments of like, look, you didn't think you could do this, but you did that. Look, you didn't think you could do this, but you still did it. And over a long period of time, I think that kind of builds that self belief. And eventually, it's kind of like what I said earlier. It's like you don't have to have it figured out. It's just trusting yourself enough to figure it out along the way. And that's what I try to remind them when they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this sort of thing.
Hmm. But I assume that, like, when people are telling you that, oh, I can't do a half marathon or a marathon or a 100 miler, like it, in some ways that day that might be true, right? Like they might not have they haven't been running enough for their legs to carry them through a full marathon, because a marathon is it's far, and then you get to
Yeah,
100 miles and that is far. Like for a lot of people, just getting to 100 miles a week will be just like the biggest challenge ever. So how do you approach that as a coach when it comes to the ultra running or the marathon, just to get through it? How do you approach the like build up, I guess, to get to the level where you're even able to run that far?
yeah. I think for me, it's a lot of it is focusing on the process-oriented goals versus the outcome goals. So, and that's with running, even also just general fitness, like weight loss, strength gain, whatever. But like it's fine to have the big goal of running an ultra 100 miler marathon, whatever. But you need to focus on the process first and focus on the things that you can control. And so whether that's I'm going to run X amount of times a week, I'm going to eat X amount of veggies a day, drink X amount of water, get X amount of sleep, focus on the things you can control because there are some things that are just out of our control, right? Um, so I think instead, like breaking it down a little bit more into more tangible, controllable bits and just focus on what you can control is essentially what I try to tell my people. Just try to win that day. We don't have to worry about the marathon in 3, 4 months right now. That's not even, it's nowhere near close. So let's just focus on what we're doing today, try to win today, and then we'll do the same thing tomorrow.
Hmm. And I guess like coming from, it sounds like you were hitting the gym before you started running, like when you started working out more. Do you have a much more strength based approach to running? So that is a crucial part of your coaching as well.
I think it's important. Yeah, 100%. It's because, again, running is just so much stress on the body, and strength training really helps for me with injury prevention. That's the main thing for me, but also just making sure that you have an efficient stride, your legs are strong, your muscles are strong. But yeah, strength training is a huge, huge, huge factor in my training and what I try to drill with my runners. Um, my friend Ben and I, who's a really talented PT here in Nashville, we started a company called Rook Running Company that is a strength training company for runners. Him and I both in agreement, like the sport of running has done so much for us, right? And we want other people to experience the magic of running. Part of experiencing the magic of running is showing up, right? Part of showing up is staying healthy. Part of staying healthy is strength training. So, and I think with runners in particular, they either don't know how to fit it into their schedule because running already takes a lot of time and we all have jobs, families, responsibilities. They don't know how to strength train as a runner. Most of us just know like the bodybuilder, like bro kind of stuff, or they just don't strength train until they get injured. Right. And then they're kind of forced to start strength training. So we wanted to bridge that gap to kind of show how important it is to feel strong, to how important strength training is for injury prevention. So yeah, I mean, it's a big like it depends answer. It depends on the runner, but in general, trying to get at least 2 strength training sessions in a week, 3 if you're a little bit lower mileage would be cool. But trying to get at least 1 or 2 in a week, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah. And I feel like the like say you're coming from a sport like for me I came from speed skating, spent so much time in the gym, and I've been talking about this on the podcast before, that I thought that that kind of strength training would also help me as a runner. And I'm sure that in some ways it has, because like my legs are stronger than most people because of that sport. We spent like so many hours in the gym hitting heavy weights. But then as soon as I got my first knee injury as a runner, I realized that those workouts, they did not help me at all. I could do them several times a week and I did not feel better. My knee was hurting just as much.
Yeah,
And so my question to you is, if you were to recommend to just a runner who just started out, or someone who is running and they're like, well, I don't know where to start with my strength training,
hmm
what kind of exercises is it that you would recommend for runners? Because I feel like it's such a difference between, yeah, like I said, for a speed
for sure.
skater compared to a runner, for
Yeah.
instance.
Well, shameless plug. If you want to download Rook, you get 7 days free, so you can try it out. But in general, I think training legs are obviously a big one. it's pretty like, and especially single leg work, because running is a single leg sport. So you just want to make sure you have good balance, you have good single leg strength, strengthen your calves, like to support your Achilles. Foot health is an important one. Your posterior chain, like your posterior chains, like from the base of your skull all the way down to your heels, right? Because when you're running, it's a very forward motion sport. And then once we're running a long distance, if our back isn't strong, if our shoulders aren't strong, we're going to start to like kind of hunch forward a little bit. So making sure that we're able to keep good form, have a strong back, keep the shoulders up is going to be important, and keeping a strong core too, for the same reason, for trunk support, just to make sure that you can stay upright while you're running the long distances is going to be really important too. So basically, posterior chain, get a strong back, strong glutes, strong hamstrings, strong calves, and core. I think those are like the most important ones. Obviously, you still want to do like some pushing, some chest or shoulders just for like symmetry, and you're not going to develop any imbalances. But yeah, posterior chain, glutes, hips, calves, hamstrings are going to be like the most, and the core is going to be the most important ones you want to work.
Hmm. And how much do we need to, so you said three times a week, but like if we were to look at say core training, I feel like sometimes, at least for myself, I tend to neglect those things that I'm like, oh, that's not as important. So I do the big exercises, like I do my squats, I do the things that is like more, I guess, cool to do if you hit the gym. And then it might be that the smaller things or the minor details of things, that those are the things that will actually make a difference. But say someone is like, oh, they're about to leave the gym, they have to leave within 2 or 3 minutes, and they're like, oh, I haven't done my core. How much is enough in terms of like how little can they get away with in terms of the core training, for
Yeah.
instance?
And that's another one of those. There's no one size fits all answer here. Depends on the runner, depends on their experience level, their fitness level already. The cool thing about the core, if you're doing a lot of compound exercises like squats and deadlifts and all those stuff, your core is engaged anyway. So even though it's not a direct core move, you're still working it. And there is obviously benefit to directly working your core. Um, See, I don't know. It's hard to give an answer for that one. It really is an it depends kind of answer. It depends on like what their fitness level is already. Obviously, how much time they have, if they have any injuries, ailments, what their focus is. But it is important. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what else to say. Like, it is important to work it. It's just finding a way to make it fit in your schedule too. I know it's a real thing, and like, that's why
Hmm.
we built Rook too. Is like because we all running already takes a lot of time. You can only run so fast, right? And we all have jobs, responsibilities, families. That's why we built all the workouts in Rook to be like 30, 40 minutes max, just
Yeah.
because nobody needs to be spending an hour or two in the gym when you're already running for X amount of time per week.
Hmm. And I think what you said there, it's kind of, it in a lot of ways answers my question as well. Not necessarily specifically for the core, but more that it doesn't need to take that much time. Like you said, 30,
Yeah.
40 minutes,
Mhm.
2 to 3 times a week. Most of us will have time for that. And like compared to a run, it's so easy to do as well. I don't know, like if you need a lot of equipment for the workouts that you have, or if you can do it at home. But I also have experienced myself, at least, that there are a lot of things that I can get away with just doing at home without any equipment. Like I have some stairs that I can do calf rises on. I have somewhere I can do some core training and a lot of body weight. If I have some elastics, that will get me very far.
100%. That is, and our viewpoint on it is running is still the main thing. Running is still the priority. We just want strength training to support that. We don't want the strength training to take away from it. That's why we don't want to leave you super sore from the strength training. We don't want to take away time from running. It is built to support your running, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think 30, 40 minutes is fine. And you're 100% right. Most of the workouts that we have in there are just dumbbells and mini bands. But you can 100% do a lot of body weight stuff in there too.
Mhm.
Something is always better than nothing. I think a lot of us get kind of caught in the all or nothing mentality, myself included.
Yeah.
But trying to get away from that all or nothing mentality and trying to get to an always something mentality. So no matter how small or imperfect that action
Hmm.
is, it adds up. And just getting used to that habitual action of doing something each day, it's going to add up over the long term.
Yeah. I remember my dad actually told me that at some point. He was like, he said something about the difference between 0 minutes and 15 minutes is so much greater than the difference between 15 and 60 minutes, although it's 45 minutes of difference. Like it's better to just do the 15 minutes
That's a good one. I haven't heard
if you
that
have
one more.
time for it. Yeah. I think that's good because it's like you said, it's so easy to be like, oh, I don't have time to go out for that run because it's going to take me an hour. And then you're like, well, if the alternative is that I'm not getting anything, then I guess it's better to just go out and run for 10 minutes and then come back in.
Yep,
Yeah.
100%. It's hard to, and again, I think we're all kind of in that all or nothing mentality a little bit more often than we like. But yeah, that's something I try to reinforce to everybody too. Is like something is always better than nothing. Don't let
Yeah.
perfection be the enemy of progress.
Cool. You also mentioned that for yourself when you started like battling some of those niggles and injuries, that there were some things that you figured out or realized that you needed to do more of, like, for instance, more easy running. What would you say is your philosophy when it comes to coaching runners?
It depends on the runner. And it kind of depends on where they're at in their running journey too. Most of the runners that come to me, I realized, one, obviously, like this distance is a big thing. They want to be able to run further, but also like learning to enjoy their running more and like improve their relationship with running a little bit more. So obviously, yes, we talk about like performance and things like that, but I think finding ways to make running more enjoyable has been a common thread lately. And that really depends on the runner. That could be going out to run with friends more often. That could be going out to run without your watch, trying a new route. That can be listen to a new audiobook, a playlist, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I haven't thought enough about that, but I don't know if I have one philosophy that I can boil down to like a sentence or two. It really just it depends on the runner, and I wish I had a better answer for
Hmm.
that. But I
No,
want
but
everybody to enjoy the sport of running and get what I've gotten out of the sport of running, and I think how we get there depends on that person.
yeah. No, I think that's a great answer, and I guess, like, if I was to challenge you or to be more specific with my question, I would say, like, because I feel like there are a lot of different approaches to running in terms of intensity, and so you obviously have the aspect that you're talking about in terms of, like, okay, what brings you joy, like what kind of workouts. Like my dad the other day, he said, I've been listening to your podcasts, and I think that it's so important to do more of the workouts that you actually enjoy, or like the runs that you enjoy, and that is very true. I think that it's better to do workouts that you like, that you're looking forward to, that you're enjoying, rather than the ones you're hating. But you will get to a point where, like, say you only loved VO2 max workouts, and that's all you did every day, and all your runs are like that, you would hit the wall at some point, right? Like, whether in terms of injuries or just not having progress as a runner. When say a runner, since this is the marathon podcast, say a runner is approaching you and he or she will, like, wants to run a faster marathon. They've already done a couple of marathons, they want to improve in the distance. uh, how do you approach intensity control?
Yeah, and I'll be fully transparent too. It like because I've only been running for seriously for like 5 or 6 years now. I'm by no means the world's greatest running coach. I'm lucky to work here at the Exchange with Lauren Osborne, who also works with Jeff Cunningham, and I'm learning from them a lot. Like the as far as the coaching aspect of running, like the program design of running. So I honestly I don't want to like overstep my boundaries here and like talk about more than what I know. Um, Sorry, they're just walking out there.
No, you're good.
But so a lot of what I do is like with the more strength training. Obviously, I can give like general guidelines and everything like that. And when it comes to program design for the running, again, I think it really depends on the runner, where they're at, and how many days a week they can do. So if they're doing like if they want to train for like a half marathon or a marathon or something like that, and they can only do 3 runs a week, if they're a brand new runner, it's probably just going to be a lot of like low intensity building your base. Maybe like it'll be two low intensity runs and then a long run on the weekends. But if they're somebody who has been running a little bit longer and then they have a little bit more capacity for that intensity, if they're still only able to do 3 runs a week, maybe they'll do like one easy run, like zone 2 run, one speed work, and then a long run, right? So
Hmm.
it depends. And again, it's like making sure that they're staying healthy, making sure that they're still enjoying the journey. So it really depends, and that's why I think it's so important to communicate with my runner, like my athletes every week too, just to kind of see how they're feeling emotionally, mentally, physically, and then adjust as needed. And I think I agree with you too. I think a lot of your program, and this is just general wellness too, not even just running. I think a lot of your program should be built around things that you genuinely enjoy, and then we sprinkle into things that maybe we don't love so much, but are good for us. Right. And that can
Hmm.
be like the speed work, that can be the long run, like whatever it is. But I think sustainability is the main thing for me. I want to make sure everybody is running. I want to make sure everybody is moving in 10, 15, 20 years too, not just to get through the season. So whatever makes this as sustainable as possible for you and allows you to enjoy the journey, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a great answer, and I also appreciate the transparency that you're showing there. But I feel like that is a perfect answer for someone who is trying to figure this out or want to know where to start. So yeah, that's great. And then you keep mentioning this community, and this is something that this is a question that I've been wanting to ask almost since we started this conversation. Will you say something more about the community that you've built in Nashville?
Oh, dude, yeah, the people here are just amazing. Started with so I've lived in Nashville for here for 2 years. For context, I lived in LA for 7 years, where I ran with like Koreatown Run Club, Sunday Run Day, a bunch of other crews, which were incredible people, incredible crews, and that's where I really started to love the sport of running. And then when I moved here to Nashville 2 years ago, I knew finding my run community was like job number one when I moved here. And then I walked into the exchange here in Nashville and I met James, co-owner of the store, him and his wife Lauren. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. It's just this incredible group of accepting, friendly people who will challenge you, but do it in like a loving and supporting way. Um, and I don't know. I just can't, man, I can't sing their praises enough. They just make running so much more fun. And I think that's a big part of the sustainability for me. They just make me enjoy the sport that much more, and being able to support them too. I get a lot of fulfillment out of that. Um, like we just did like this event that I was telling you about, where I did 100 miles in Shelby Park. It was called shortest day of the year, longest run of your life with BPN. I think we had like 500 people come out for that, and just running around this park for 12 hours. Everybody was like high fiving each other, cheering each other on nonstop for 12 hours. It was just such a special moment. So I can't sing their praises enough. It makes the sport of running too. It makes the sport of running fun, but in general, I think we're all looking for a sense of belonging, right? And I think for me, running is the container of that, and the community that we've built here in Nashville just, I don't, it gives me that sense of belonging. It feels like I'm where I need to be.
Hmm. And how important is that? Because I feel like until you've actually experienced that belonging, it's hard to understand how important it is, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. We might miss it without really knowing that we do. And for you, like you said, when you found this community in general with running or being a part of it, that seemed life changing to you. So, how important is that?
It very. We're just social beings in general, and again, I think we're all looking for like a sense of belonging. And I'm just very lucky to have found this group that a lot of like-minded people who I'm inspired by, who I love very much, who love me, who challenge me in various ways. Yeah, and they just add a lot of value to my life. Like I look forward to seeing them 3, 4, 5 times a week. Yeah, and it's uh, again going back to life as a design system. I've just designed my life in a way that I get to see them so many times a week, and it just because it makes me happy. But yeah, I'm very lucky to have them here. I just keep singing their praises, but they're just the best people, and I'm very grateful for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. So what does your you like you said you love your life right now. Like what does life look like going forward for you? What are your plans?
Good question. Um, I don't I like I want to essentially just build a life that I'm proud of, that I can stand behind. So with running, I'm going to keep challenging myself. I have a couple 100 milers coming up this year that I'm going to give my all into, and continuing to show up for the people in my life is going to be a big one. But essentially, it's just like live a life that I can stand behind, whether that's work, whether that's social, whether that's relationships, whatever. I'm having so much fun with where my life is at right now, with the people that I have in my life, with the challenges that I'm taking on, with the meaningful work that I'm able to do. I just want to keep doing that. Like, again, I'm doing work that I care about. I'm helping other people. I'm able to pay my bills. So I just want to keep doing that.
Yeah.
My theme for this year was to go all in, and this is probably a whole nother conversation, but I've struggled with limiting beliefs for a long time, kind of like the imposter syndrome, like who am I to do this, yada yada yada.
Hmm.
But my theme for this year is to go all in, and that essentially means believing in myself, and setting up my life in a way that others can hold me accountable. So going all in on my running, like seeing how good I can get at these ultra marathons, going all in on the community and helping them, going all in on my coaching, storytelling. So yeah, there's some fun things like we're working on this YouTube series, training for the various races and showcasing the communities. Again, I'm really giving my all for my next race is in 15 weeks, 100 miler in Ohio that I'm going to train really hard for. So yeah, I guess I'm just excited to go all in.
Yeah. But I have to ask you because actually meant to ask you
Mhm.
about that previously. And like you said, that you're currently training for this 100 miler, or when you were doing the speed project, how do you actually train for that? Because for those of us who are training for a marathon, we know that, okay, we need to have this certain mileage, whatever.
Yeah.
But you are actually training for a race that has the mileage that most of us will aim for as like a weekly mileage.
Yeah, it depends. I think it depends on the race. So this one, the last two races that I did, the last man standing and the shortest day, longest run, were both flat pavement races, right? So it was more about the mileage rather than time on feet for me. But the next two races that I have coming up are both trail races. So a lot of it is going to be, yes, the mileage will be high, but it's going to be more time on feet. But it's really not a crazy um, program. It's so my base mileage whenever I'm not training for something is like 30, 40 miles a week. And then from there, it's just gradually increasing the mileage week by week. So luckily I've been doing this for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years now to where I can jump up in mileage a little bit quicker because my body's just used to it. But it's really just increasing mileage by like 5-ish miles a week. I'll probably get up to a couple 100-mile weeks, like closer to the race. But I usually build for 3 weeks, take a taper week, or take a deload week, and then build again for 3 weeks, deload week, build for 3 weeks, deload week, and a lot of it's gonna be trails, over the
Yeah.
next, 15 weeks. But yeah, it's just gradually building mileage over the next 15 weeks, deload week every 3rd week, try to strength train 2 or 3 times a week, probably closer to 2 as the mileage creeps up, and just try to stay as consistent as I can with that. I do a lot of running with the exchange crew here too. Like on Wednesdays, we do our track workout, so I get my speed work in with them. And then with ultras, the biggest difference with ultras and marathons is like you just have back to back long runs during marathons. You
Hmm.
normally have your long run of the weekend followed by a rest day. With ultras, you have your long run one day followed by another long run the next day. So yeah, I'll be running probably 5, 6 days a week and strength training 2 days a week. One day will be speed work, two long runs, and the other days will just be easy zone twos.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. If when we're talking here, and I keep repeating myself on that, but it just I'm very impressed with your mindset, how you've turned your life around. If you were able to like talk to 21-year-old Cody today, what is it that you would tell him?
Oh man, that's a good question. One to stay, because 21-year-old Cody didn't think that he would be alive to see 22-year-old Cody, and I would let him know that life gets a lot better. Like stay for the people you're gonna meet, stay for the trips you're gonna take, for the experiences you're gonna make, for I don't know the life that you're gonna build. So I guess the first thing I would tell him would be to stay, and that life gets better. Yeah, and just like believe in yourself. I guess. I think I struggled for so long because the vision that I had for myself was just very different from a lot of what my friends had or my family had, for myself and for themselves too. So there was always a lot of self-doubt surrounding with the direction that I wanted to go. But yeah, so I guess it would be stay for the people that you're going to meet, the experiences you're going to make, and the life you're going to build, and then believe in what you have in your heart.
Mhm. That's awesome. Wow. Cody, thank you so much for everything that you shared. I feel like we're just touching the surface in some ways with this conversation, but I hope that the listeners feel as inspired as I am. And yeah, want to thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This was fun. I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much, and good luck with your upcoming races. And I'll link the app and your socials down below so people can check you out.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Super grateful to Cody for coming on. I hope that this episode inspired you just as much as it inspired me. And again, we're no professionals, so if you feel like you need someone to talk to after this, or talk to some professionals, and yeah, I appreciate you being here, appreciate you listening, and I'll talk to you in the next one. You listen to the Marathon Podcast, brought to you by Wallet Studio.